Welcome to Backroom Talk. As a coach or business owner, to find someone like that can challenge you is just so important.
The next level of that is kind of like you becoming a mentor, you be coaching coaches, or because you're like, okay, I got to get like my shit together. Like I can't like tell you to do X, Y, and Z if I'm not doing it, you know?
To listen to more Backroom Talk, be sure to subscribe. Learn to design personalized programs with the OPEX system of coaching by heading to opexfit.com. Meg Sweet, welcome.
Thanks.
A lot of you guys have probably heard Meg Sweet's name, but you have never seen her face. She's the face behind getting into OPEX. I know I felt that way when I first, had hundreds of conversations with you on the phone, and then finally saw your face, and I'm like, yeah, you actually look how you sound. So,
that's cool.
Yeah. So welcome.
Thanks.
So
Glad to be an AZ again.
Yeah. Let's start with how did you get into OPEX OPT? Like, what's your, Georgia called it your origin story. What's your OPT OPEX origin story?
Yeah. So I was just started coaching at the time, and a bunch of other coaches at my gym were, following Big Dogs, which was like the cool blog back in the day.
You didn't have to quote unquote that. It was actually called Big Dogs.
Yeah, Big Dogs. The OPT Big Dog blog. And so we would do those workouts, and we're like, what is tempo? Take you like 10 minutes just to figure out like what, up 3 seconds, down 2 seconds. You do it wrong a bunch. But anyway, we had a lot of fun. And kind of a community was forming like in Atlanta, which is where I was at the time. And I was, I like accidentally qualified for regionals. And I'll say that like in 2011, I never competed. And we went to regionals, and I was prepping for the regional, and I was following the blog, and then I met a bunch of other people with Big Dog shirts down at the Dirty South regional in Jacksonville that year. And then that following fall, James had a Big Dog bash at CJ Martin's place in San Diego, and like all these CCP coaches were there, which at the time I think there was like 150 people who had done CCP, and I just knew that was something for me. Like I was about to start running my gym as the head coach and didn't have a clue how to program. Could show up and coach a class, felt good about that, but programming was freaky for me, and doing personal training, I was like, if they ask me about this workout, like I don't know. So that's how I got into CCP. Fast forward, quit my corporate job, showed up. I took a job at Lululemon as a showroom manager, was in Vancouver that weekend, came here the next weekend for my CCP training, and freaking was the most amazing time ever. Like you guys both, I'm sure, experienced, right? You remember your first time at OPT. OPEX.
Thank you for clarifying.
I was like, I do remember my first time.
Sharing that?
And sort of that it was life coaching, and this guy at the time was teaching. His name was Bernie, and he was sick, and so he couldn't make it. So we just ended up with like 2 extra days, and I ended up doing a consult with James, and was like, can you coach me? Regionals isn't like 6 weeks. If you're a coach, you like get the guy 6 weeks before, and it was open. Open was 6 weeks away, and he's like, well, we'll do what we can, and which was pretty easy because my snatch was horrible. If you ever saw a video of it, you would be like, that's an easy fix. And so we started that journey. He became my coach, and after regionals that year, I got an amazing. I'll never forget. I got this email. I was getting ready to go into the gym, and it was like, what are your plans? We're going to bring a group here. Would you like to move out? We think you have potential. And I was like, yeah. And then I kind of had to go through that journey of, well, I just took this job at Lululemon. Oh my God, I'm going to let people down, blah, blah, blah. And this girl that worked for me was like, they'll find someone else, which, I like to be important. That was kind of like my ego at the time. I needed to be important. And that like hurt my heart. Like, I'm not replaceable. But eventually I decided, yeah, I'm coming. And so here we are. And now I'm an AZ for, first time. It's hot as hell. Moved in the beginning of August. My now husband was my roommate, a guy, Matt Bryant, who was a coach for OPEX at OPT back then. We were all living together. It was like the real world style. And there's four people that worked at the company. Max who's now a training think tank, Natalie, James, JT, and myself. And just started having fun, and it was good times. Yeah.
So when you came out, was it to specifically compete, or was it like, hey, come out, compete, we also have a job for you here so you can make a couple dollars and you can feed yourself? Or were you like, I'm coming out here with no job and I just want to make regionals, the games again next year?
Yeah. So like when the first email came, I had no idea. I thought I would just transfer to Lululemon, but being a showroom manager, I couldn't go back down to just being an educator. And actually that was the best thing somebody said to me. It was like, no, we're not going to support you because athlete is your priority. So when that happened, I contacted some gyms, worked at the guy was a CCP coach as well. We went through our nutrition module, and Leanne, James's wife, was like, I've got, I can do like $15 an hour, give you some odd jobs, whatever. And if you want to get clients through us, you can do that. So, that was it. I mean, I came down with about $3,000 in my bank account, which was pretty scary. Oh God, this story is pretty funny. So Matt, he knew a guy from Springfield where he lived, whose like sister lived in a house. And this was during like the housing crisis. So in Arizona, like all these houses were for sale, and they were in a short sale process. And the guy's like, yeah, you can rent from us $600 a month. So we get there, it's like nasty. There's like paper shavings on the floor, and it was not like a really nice place to live. We had nothing. We literally had nothing but our beds. They had blow-up beds. And I was like, cool, we can pay $200 a month. So we get our first job. I get my first job. Everyone kind of gets a little bit of job going. I'm probably making like $1,200 a month. And we kind of got together, and I said to Matt Bryan, I was like, hey, you guys think we could like go to Goodwill and get a couch? And he's like, I just saw one on the side of the road. And he's like, but I don't have any money to put gas in my car. And JT was a professional poker player in the past. So he had some savings, and he's like, all right, I'll put the gas in the car. And we pick up this like couch, and we put it in our living room. None of us sit in it, like ever, because we're like, this is gross. But we at least had a couch. Then like a week later, I'm like, did someone spill rice on the ground? And they're like, no. And the rice is moving. There's maggots in the house. And we're like, we clean them up. We go to work out. 4 or 5 days later, 4 times as many maggots in the house. And Matt and I are like, oh, JT, we gotta be at training with James at 8:30. You got this, right? And we leave and make him clean it up. He was so mad. So 2 days later, we moved out to an apartment. But
I would have gotten that couch out of that apartment as soon as possible.
I don't think it was the couch.
Once I first saw those moving rice modules moving around the ground.
They just came with the place, huh?
Yeah. I don't think it was the couch. It was just bad timing. So
it wasn't a super glamorous life when you first moved out here. That's what you're saying.
No. You just like, if you want to do something, you just have to do it and figure it out. Like I see so many people try to, I mean, I do this too, and in certain ways of my life, but they try to like get everything in place before no, I'm going to commit. Like, this is my word. It's going to happen, and I'm going to show up every day until it happens. And that's what it was. And that lesson carries on forever. So
what did you learn? And I suppose what did you do as well, being a part of the athlete program out here?
Yeah. Oh gosh, what did I learn? I was the only female. So it was me, Danny Nichols, a guy named Moses Cordova, and Colin, who had already, he was probably had the best stats at the time. Like, and Matt, we were the people training in the morning, and James and Max were our coaches. And so I had to get thick skin, because I remember it was like our first tester. I had to do a 10-minute assault bike test, right? And I've like really felt like I laid it out there. And Danny's like, you didn't want it. You didn't even go hard. You were fine after. And I like cried, in the bathroom. He made me cry a lot. But it was just learning to like, I don't know, be tougher and want it, and like silently let that like fire burn inside of me. to where like regionals that year, like I placed higher than all those guys. And I was like, hell yeah, you know? But training with the guys was the best because they made it fun and it was competitive and it was like do or die. So yeah.
What was the important thing for you at that time? Was it like, because I know CrossFit was fairly new to you at the time, and you saw that you had a lot of potential, you were good at it. Were you like, okay, I'm going to go out there and dedicate my life to CrossFit and fitness, or was it like, I want to go to Arizona, I want to experience some cool things, I want to be around these people? Like, what was your mindset? Why did you come here? Was it to be the best athlete you can be, or did you just want to experience different things?
I think it was two things. I think one, it was just, be the best athlete I could be. Because being a coach and running a gym, I didn't have anyone coaching me. For like the moment I like became good and became a coach, nobody coached me anymore, you know? And so I like was snatched to look like, you know, nasty. So to have someone watch those reps and like really be on me was awesome. The second thing is just I wanted to learn from James. You know, I think being a coach and having the like at that time, James was in my mind, and I think a lot of people's minds, was like one of the best, if not the best coaches in CrossFit. I mean, he's taught so many of the top coaches today. Like if you just were to look back and be like, who were their mentors? Like they directly studied under him, or like whoever their mentor was did. So I think I just wanted to learn and soak all that up, and I did. I learned so much from that.
Yeah. Yeah, James is like sorry, Georgia, you're not going to get this one, but I think Meg will. James is like the Bill Belichick of CrossFit.
I know.
Yeah.
He's a coach.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You watch American?
Yes, we're getting there. We're getting
There we
there.
go. You guys are going to watch my like gradual education in American sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I say that because Bill Belichick's like this guy that, you know, back in the 90s, he was coaching the Cleveland Browns, and, you know, he like built this system and then eventually went to the Patriots, and then all of his assistant coaches, not all of them, a good amount of his assistant coaches just went on to be like these amazing head coaches in different places. And that's how I see James, right? Like James started this thing, and then you see all of these awesome coaches that were built from, you know, James's lineage, if that makes sense. And, you know, James and I have talked about that in the past, and he gets a really good feeling from that, like seeing those coaches out succeeding, even though they have nothing to do with us. And, you know, some of them don't give James any credit, but it's cool to look back at, oh yeah, that coach was in CCP with James in, you know, 2010, 2011, 12. So
Yep.
yeah, he's the Belichick.
He is. And the thing is, I think it's something to be said about like a coach that can actually develop people, because the sport was so new. Like someone could just come in and be like a gymnast and just walk in your gym and you get lucky. And there were a lot of coaches back then that they had clients like that. They would just like make it to the games. But James would take these middle of the pack regional athletes to the top, or even just like, I'm not saying like Marcus Philly wasn't like a really great athlete or like McGoldrick, but you know, they were like top 10 or whatever level at regionals. And I don't know their stats, so sorry if you're watching, but they made it to the games. Like it was like to be the third spot, like that took something. Like 1 and 2, you know, they were separators, but that third spot at the time, coaching made a difference. But people didn't yet in this industry, in the fitness industry, in CrossFit, see that. And James was so far ahead of his time. You know, I was like 45th in the Open in 2011. I don't know, probably like 20 something in 2012. But I was, you know, like 14 the next year, and then 10 or something like that. I don't even remember. And then to go from 22nd in 2012 in the Southeast, which was actually like a way better regional, so to 7th. Like that was huge. You know, people were like, "Whoa, like you progressed a lot." And not just like, "Oh, I got fitter." Like the way that I thought about training, the way I approached workouts, the way that I dealt with life outside of it. You know, like that to me is a coach. Not just like, "Oh, cool, I wrote a good workout." You know what I mean? And even going into CCP, like people who participate in CCP, that's what like people come out of. You know, like I got to think about how to actually like work with this unique person, this unique personality. You know, for me, like James was like, he figured out like, oh, I just tell her she can't do something and she's going to like die trying. Other people, you do that to them, like they shut down, you know, and to see him navigate all our different personalities. And then in 2013 fall, Amanda came and Gabby came, and dealing, like how he approached other females.
Yeah, walk us through. So you came here, you got out of the maggot infested infested apartment. You kind of just walk through how you improved over those years. Kind of give us some insight into what those years look like. Like, how was it competing here with the team? How, like, what were your individual successes or failures in CrossFit while you were kind of in that, I want to be the best athlete that I can be?
Mm-hmm. I think, I got lucky in a lot of ways in that I grew with the sport, right? So like 2011, like, no one really had a handstand push-up, so it was like cool. Or you could make it to regionals without a muscle up, which I did, right? And so I got to develop with the sport, but it was like anything, right? It was like, and then it like took off. And between, I would say, 2013 and 2014, I really saw that. And then the next year they went to the super regional, and I made it was hard to realize, like, no matter how I couldn't do any more work. Like I was doing 3 sessions a day, right? Like it was my whole life. And I was not going to be able to do what, like, say, Amanda Goodman can do in my training. And it was awesome having her because, she was probably like one of the best training partners I've ever had, right? Because she didn't make me feel like a loser. Every once in a while I beat her on something, right? Very hardly ever. But it was, I think realizing I'm not going to get to that place. And okay, now I have a choice. Do I do I ride this thing out? Or do we like band together as a team? And so it was like Danny, and at that time, Shauna and Aaron Carter came, and Jim had moved here and became our 6th guy. And having to say, like, okay, like I'm going to hang up. I made it as an individual. We all did. I'm going to hang that up, and I'm going to go as a team to the game, because ultimately I wanted that games experience, and knowing I wasn't going to make it as an individual, that's a hard thing to go through, I think. And I was burnt out. So in 2014, you guys remember Grid? It was called like MPGL or whatever. And James was a part of it, and he bought this team. And so like we all went to the tryouts. And I remember I pulled 345 on a deadlift, and it wrecked me. It was like the week after the open or something. And my nervous system just was like declining as regional was approaching. I was hanging on by a thread. I PR'd my back squat like 2-4. I peaked too early. I knew it, because I knew what it felt like to peak, and I peaked like the week before. Mm-hmm. And I showed up in Utah, and we're at altitude, and like all of my times are worse, going into day one, and it was like mentally messing with me. And I was just started dating my husband, who's not JT, James Taylor, who's now my husband. And I remember being in a workout, and this guy is like no-repping me over and over. And I'm just watching this whole season like go down the drain. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced anything like that, just in the moment. And I was like, man, I'm loved. Like, why am I doing this to myself? And I think that rewind, how I got into I wanted to belong when I like CrossFit. I got sucked into it to belonging. And I felt that in that moment, and then everything kind of like someone just pulled that string out, right? And I was like, my identity was like searching for years after that. So, but I still miss performing, like even talking about it. Like I'm that like 3, 2, 1, go. Like there's chaos around, but it's so quiet for me,
That period where you were floating and searching, following the string unraveling.
Yeah.
What did you try to use to fill the void in that period?
So after we went to the games as a team, I think I turned to competing in my mind of like growing OPEX. It became like my next thing. I remember I wrote on the board like 1,000 CCP coaches or something. And that's what I put my energy towards. I still trained. I floundered for years, probably at least 3 or 4 years. Competed at Wadapalooza that year. But it was done. It was just, and I'm like, when I'm done, I'm done, Like I might struggle a little bit once I finally get to them done. But yeah, I don't know if I've ever like, I still haven't found anything to put in that place that's like a fitness pursuit. I've been kind of just playing. But yeah, it turned into like less about me and more about, okay, what impact am I going to make in the world? Like I've reached my maximum physical potential. What do I want to do now?
Can you share a little bit about what your impact has been since that point on OPEX and the many coaches that have come out of CCP? Gosh,
yeah. I mean, so, there's 4 people, and then, now we've got like a team of 12, which is cool. We're getting close to 3,500 coaches that have gone through CCP. The first iteration of CCP at the time was like the best, right? And it's grown. And like, I think we're all really proud of the version of CCP that we have. Like, I think if you would ask me in like 2017, like a certain question about CCP, I would probably be like dodging that question. But now like this is a legit course. Like it should be like a $10,000 course in my mind, because of what people get out of it. And I think, yeah, like it's hard to talk about like what I've done because it's not just me, it's the whole group of people that have come here and been a part of it. And we've had like some challenging people on the team over the years that haven't been good fit, but like right now, like you guys, I love working with you guys, yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
No, I'm just, because we know what you do now, right?
Yeah.
You're here as CMO, but what was your initial role inside the company more broadly? Like what did you first do?
Made the first coach's toolkit, posted the blog, hung the picture wall, like whatever they needed me to do. And coached. I remember we had to, like now there's a salesperson down there for big dogs. But at the time, like we had to email anybody who said they wanted to work with James, who didn't want to work with Max. Like it was like, all right, here's the leftover people and go find those clients. And a couple of those clients, I had 7 years. I got one still. So
where did coaching fit in for you throughout everything, throughout moving here, working at the CrossFit gym that you worked at, then putting all your time into being an athlete and eventually, focusing on growing OPEX? Kind of talk about how coaching played a part in each one of those iterations.
Yeah. When I first got here, it was like, that was it. Like I was coaching classes. I was personal training at OPT. I had, 12 remote clients. So that was it. Like I did. And I had, maybe 5-10 hours of just a little bit of marketing stuff I would do. But then over time that kind of like flipped. And I think that, and I see this happening in CrossFit a lot. I think that when I stopped competing, I didn't want to coach people in CrossFit anymore, because it was like my own stuff I was working through. It wasn't as exciting or fun for me. And, it took time for me to like figure that out again. Of like, oh, why do I really want to coach people? And it went back to my original love of coaching, which was watching people's lives transform outside the gym. So like who I work with now is, women who are tired, who have bad lifestyle things, who feel, they're in their 30s. They're like, I can't do like the fad diet anymore, or their 40s, or, and that's who I like to work with. So it's just, I think I'm at the phase of my life where I'm like finding myself again, instead of being like, believing I'm like this lost athlete still.
Is it do you like working with those women specifically? Because is it one of those situations where, when you go through an experience and you're like, shit, if I would have just known this, is it a little bit of that, or is it not connected to your personal experiences at all?
Yeah, I think that going back to like 2009 when I started coaching, what I realized is like, it's not all about eating less and exercising more. So I had that personal experience, which is what I wanted to work with Gen Pop people. I just saw people just straight up punishing themselves with workouts and then depriving themselves of food, and like what that does to your hormones, what that does to your happiness, how that carries over into your self-worth. So I guess, yeah, I mean, I think most coaches are probably in it because they had a personal story. I like for me, fitness started in high school. It was like spring break, and I would just like crash, diet and work out twice a day, and just like I just didn't like myself. I mean, like I think that if you do that to yourself, you don't like yourself in some deep level. Maybe you're not willing to admit, but I didn't. I just saw all my flaws, you know, and then eventually that didn't work anymore. And for me, that happened at 23, you know, and I remember sitting in my doctor's office and she's like, well, she's like, you just need to eat less and exercise more. And I'm like, I'm eating 1,200 calories and I work out twice a day. So I'm pretty sure I'm burning what I'm eating, if not more. And she's like, well, I can get you a diet pill. And in that, it was like that light bulb moment for me. I was like, doctors don't know stuff. Like, I got to like take my life into my own hands. And I had this coach at the YMCA who's like, you just got to trust me. Like, you need to eat more and your body will relax. And so I kind of was like, well, what do I have to lose, right? And then I found CrossFit and I did paleo and I was like, oh, food quality matters. And then the fitness became about fun and eating became about nutrition and like supporting my body. And then like, of course, all the other stuff followed. And so just to be that person as a coach still matters to me for other people.
Did you make any of those mistakes after, you know, you had that aha moment with the YMCA coach or personal trainer? You know, so throughout your entire time, were you like, I'm on it, I'm eating enough, I'm training a lot, obviously, but I'm fueling myself properly? Like, did you experience any burnout? Did you experience any hormonal fatigue or issues because of the way you were eating and training throughout your competitive years?
Yes, in the beginning, I was like, oh, I have to eat paleo, right?
That's why I asked.
Everyone was doing that because I was like, you know, I was trying to be healthy and then performance. And I think James really was like, I actually remember Marcus coming to town. He's like, you guys eat white rice? You guys eat ice cream? We're like, yeah, you know. And once I gave that up, like, yeah, my performance, I had to just give up like health and perform because being an athlete isn't healthy, you know, at all. Like at all. So, yeah. And then, you know, then coming out of being an athlete, you have to like go back to eating not that food, you know, and dealing with that.
Yeah.
You spoke about that again, like unraveling and that just nervous system crash that you went through. Were there lasting health consequences from pushing your body like that?
I don't know if they're lasting. I mean, I used to think maybe they were lasting. I think that our bodies are so smart, and I think that they just want homeostasis. I think we're designed to survive so we can reproduce. But I have dealt with, I had 2016, I began to get tinnitus in my left ear, which is kind of a nervous system thing. I had chronic migraines every afternoon about 4 o'clock, which is now what I know is it's a hormonal kind of a thing. I didn't have any menstrual problems. I was very regular. We got pregnant, we were like, oh, let's have a kid. And we got pregnant like the second month. We lost our first child at 21 weeks, our first pregnancy. We don't have any kids yet. And that was like whoa, okay. I thought I was healthy. Maybe I should go to the doctor and start to investigate that. Yeah, I'm still working through that, you know, that loss. It sucked, big time. And then I got pregnant like 3 months after, and then I had another miscarriage. And my hormones just didn't recover. And, you know, pregnancy is like really a lot of work, in a different way than like competing in a regional weekend, but it feels like that for me, it felt like coming out of regionals after that, where you're like depressed. You should be, right? You need to recover. They found a large cyst on my right ovary, that ended up being operated on. It wasn't cancerous or anything, but lost that ovary. So, you know, 2019 that was a rough year. And then you roll into 2020 with COVID. And so I'm still kind of, I think, rebounding from 2 pregnancies, losing an ovary. And do I think that's from being an athlete? I don't know. I think that like I'd have to go back further in my life and be like, yeah, I was in high school and I was overtraining and I lost my period. And then in college, I'm just the kind of person that's like, when I do something, I do 100%. So in college, I was like, I'm 100% partier. I'm going to drink all night. Like I close the bars down. I smoke cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes like I smoked cigarettes on my way to Jacksonville.
Did you see the finger thing? She's like, she got it.
I was like,
ooh.
Me and my training partner.
Flashbacks.
Me and my training partner, her name was Beck. She probably doesn't care. She smoked cigarettes too. Like we rode down and it's just like, I don't know. I was kind of like a dumb athlete. And then I just figured whenever I needed my body, it would change. And I still kind of believe in my body that way. Yeah. But it sucks when you're like going through or it's not where you want it to be. And I've had a few moments like that in life. My body's like, okay, we need a break.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the narrative in let's just say competitive fitness as a whole, being in that thing as a female, I think when you're done doing it, everyone just wants to look back at that's the reason you're unhealthy is because of what you did to your body and blah, 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 right? It's like not a lot of people think like, oh, maybe my body is resilient enough to do some things and recover and me not having long-lasting effects there. So I like that you're not just blaming the fact that, oh, I competed and I trained a lot on like all of your health issues, right?
Exactly.
Or like not even health issues, but like, you
challenges.
you losing a couple of pregnancies and stuff like that. So you're just an investigator, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this thing happened. I need to figure out why it happened. And none of that shit lines up with you did too many snatches and pull-ups. That's why it happened. So I can appreciate that you're continually investigating this thing and you're not going to give up, and you guys are going to get pregnant again.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a little sweet baby.
Yeah. James is like, let's do twins and one and done it,
Yeah, just make up for lost time. It's like, let's just get 2 out, be done, get out of here.
Yeah. And then we apparently have twins in our family. So, you never know.
Yeah.
Indeed. What are you doing right now in this investigative process for your own fitness? Like what's your mindset and approach at the moment?
So when it comes to getting pregnant, it's a very feminine thing, which is different than being an athlete. Being an athlete is very masculine, I think. It's like, this is my goal. I'm in the pursuit. I'm single focused. Like, I'll make it happen. Work, grind. But getting pregnant is the opposite, is what I've learned. Or like, the more I try to make it happen, my body is like, yeah, fuck you. I'm not even going to ovulate. So right now I'm trying to just actually live my life again. And I think I went through this period during COVID, where it's like being alone is not good for me. I love people. And not having that like social outlet was tough. And so it became about, if I can't lead people or like be in community, I'll go really like, it's like my Virgo moon, I'm into astrology, is like I always have to like fix things, and I just I tried to like really fix it. I did like this mercury detox and I like did vegan for 2 weeks because I was like, okay, I maybe need a protein deload. And I think all that stuff was actually really important to do. Because like I smoked cigarettes and drank like crazy and took Adderall and stayed up all night and whatever I did in college. And then went right into competing. I'm sure my liver was like, fuck you. Right. But now I'm just like, what is fun? What is fun? Because that's what CrossFit was when I started, right? It was just fun. Like I didn't have to fix anything. I was like, I'm just playing, And I think as we get older, it's probably why they say you should do mushrooms in like your 30s, right? Is because you're kind of like fixed at that point. And I don't want to be fixed. Like I want to be constantly growing and exploring new things. And I think that's what we're all struggling with COVID. It's like I'm looking at the same 4 walls like every day. Like it's like me in the trees and that same squirrel I see every morning. And I'm starting to be like, this is getting a little weird, So yeah, just like what could be fun? New hikes, new foods, pleasure. I think the Japanese have it down with like the cat places where you can just go and like have cats crawl over you.
Oh, that's my like absolute heaven.
Yeah. So
I don't think there could be anything further from pleasure for me. A bunch of like cats on me.
You don't like cats?
Oh no, I'd be super stressed out.
They like walk in their own litter box.
Oh.
Well, they are nice, but
They'd be covered in fur.
And
That's
like Meg said, like cat piss too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just fun. I think that's, just staying at Carl's this weekend. He's like, all right, this is the workout. And I'm like, oh, this is so fun. I'm like, do we have to only do an hour? Because I can like do it for like 5 hours.
Yeah, it's been a fun weekend. And we were in Sedona the other day and Meg brought back the Vortex.
Yeah, I brought the Vortex back apparently. Put the good energy in.
So what's next, Meg? What's, Georgia asked that in your fitness, but what's next for you? Professionally, personally, all of that. Like, what are you looking forward to?
So like professionally, I mean, that's what I spend most of my day doing, right? Is just taking what I do and duplicating it and like just building the team out so we're not under-resourced. The more I can like take something and give it away, then it's like, okay, I can go create something new, which is not necessarily my innate way of being.
It's like, I want to do that and that and that.
Yeah. I could do everything. And then like, I can't really. That matters. I love talking to people. Like I was just like calculating, it's probably been like 20,000 coaches I've talked to, or people wanting to become coaches, people all over the world. We all have the same struggles. We all have the same concerns as coaches. We all have dealt with the same failures, or we like think we're not going to fail. And like I talk to you 2 years later and you've done that now and you're ready. And I definitely want to keep doing that. Like it just lights me up. And I love like coming up with like content or cool ways to like get that content out with Georgia and you, and like just having time for that. And then, I took like a little coaching sabbatical in person, but I really miss it. And so I got to like figure out how that's going to be. Remote coaching's cool. But being in person is another level. And I think we're going to see that in the fitness industry. I think everyone's like, oh, I want to be a remote coach because I can like go to Fiji and like program from wherever. And it's fun for like a year. And then, for most people, there's just not the same as like sitting in the same room and like sharing our bacteria. There's like, could go down a rabbit hole on that. But yeah, I want to get in person. There's a really cool gym in the Atlanta area called Noble Clay, which is, they're working with under-resourced areas, and like, there's potentially going to be hopefully another one coming a little bit closer to where I live. Getting a little word of that on the streets, and so hope to be involved in that a little bit. And I'm getting my yoga teacher training cert, which I want to do. I got really into yoga because I couldn't weight train for a while. And I just want to explore different types of fitness. I've been working with a woman who has been doing some pelvic floor stuff with me post-surgery and like using a Pilates reformer. And I'm like, oh, like I can like use my body like this, and my core is so much stronger, whereas I just sort of like willed through everything, because that's my default. So that's what I hope to do, is just keep exploring. As well as like, I think I'm really passionate about mental health stuff too. I think that a lot of us, at least most athletes I know, deal with something. I don't know. Do you guys deal with any like anxiety or?
Oh yeah. And I absolutely love to bury it like in
a
tough workout, of course.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's why I think the chaos of the workout is the peace zone.
It's great. Now I just go and beat people up. So even better.
I want to try jujitsu. There's a place by my house.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. I mean, I'm 34. I'll be 35 in a couple months, but I feel like I haven't had time to like sit back and be anxious quite yet after my athletic career, because I just did and maybe that's my default, right? I'm like, okay, I have to do the next thing. What's the next thing? So maybe I'm unintentionally just doing a lot of things to like keep my brain full, so I don't have time to miss the thing that I did last, right? And and we've talked about it a few times even on this show, going from football and then being like, okay, what's more exciting than football? It's like, I'm going to go to the military. It's like, what's more exciting than just going in the military? I'm going to go to a higher level in the military, and then you get, what I mean? So it's like, over the past 10 or 15 years, it's always just been this and then this and then this and then this. And the thing that I do next, I always love more than the thing that I did last. So I haven't really, no. I mean, the answer is no. There's no anxieties from like, missing anything in the past, because I always feel like I'm doing something better. So yeah, maybe when I'm 45, I'll look back and think like, shit, what I'm doing today, I didn't enjoy as much as, when I was 34 and having this conversation with you guys.
Yeah, I think it's also, I don't know, like, some people might be like, oh, Carl, like, what are you running from? But I mean, I know you, I don't think that you're doing that. But I think that if you are a leader, have that innate ability, it's not good to work on yourself too much. You know, I think there's like a saying in the yoga world that's like, I don't know if this is going to be a parallel, but I might be reaching. But if you don't have time to meditate, you need to meditate, and if you don't have time to work out, you need to work out. And there's like this yin and this yang energy, right? And so I think that if you're always working on yourself and like you're not fulfilled or like you're never reaching somewhere, it's like go do something in your community, because you're never going to achieve that, whatever that version of yourself that you think you should be. And if you're someone who's always working, you know, on external things, like maybe you need to do a little bit of internal work, like to find peace and fulfillment and satisfaction, you know, because you get to the thing and you're like, this isn't it. And then you're just like, I don't know.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think, you know, there's a lot of different personality types, and you get a lot of people get fulfillment in different ways, of course, right? But I think there always has to be a level of, even if you are that person that finds fulfillment in helping other people, you have to still find time for yourself.
Yeah.
And I did go years and years and years without finding that time for myself, and I didn't realize it, right? Like it was just like this numb feeling in the back of your head where you're like, yeah, everything's okay. And then you get to a point and you're like, I need to reorganize my entire life. You know what I mean? And I think that's super important for everyone to spend time with themselves and reflect on things and think about what they want to do, who they want to be, how they want to do those things, how they want other people to talk about them when they're gone, and little things like that. Yeah. And like there's a lot of realities that come when you start to think about how will this person talk about me when I die? And you're like, oh man, that person might have some negative things to say about me. I need to clean that shit up, you know? Not that you need to go around caring about what other people think, but I think it's important. So yeah, I agree. The yin and the yang, and, you know, working, you know, even if you are a leader, it's like putting other people before yourself sometimes, but, you know, ultimately you do have to put yourself before everyone else.
How old were you when you had that, oh, I need to like look at myself?
Gosh, not that old, or sorry, not that young. It's probably 32.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it was like, it's pretty recent, you know, and I thought everything was good, you know, from, you know, all that time before, you know, turning 32, but it was around that time. And I'm like, man, I need to like take a step back and reorganize everything and reorganize my priorities.
Yeah, because like when you're younger, you're just exploring, you know, you're like bumping up against the limitations of your environment and yourself. And I think when you get to around, you know, for some people it's like 27, for some people it's 32. I think there's that time period of life where, you know, your prefrontal cortex is fully formed. You know, I'm sure it has something to do with it. And you do have to like say like, oh, like, who am I? Why do I do this? And do I want this to be like, if you want to keep growing? Because I think it's so easy to just fall into like, I am this way. And then you're just like surviving until you die. And that just sounds horrible, you know?
2020 has been a big year for that for
yeah.
many people, I think.
Yeah. But I don't think it ever stops though, Meg. Like
yeah.
to your point where it's like the prefrontal cortex is done developing, but I don't think like we stop developing as human beings at that point. Like, you know, if we do sit here 5 years from now, there will be another iteration of that where it's like, oh, I was numb to this thing, and then I had this like realization, and then everything's fixed and I'm good. And then 5 years later, it's the same thing, right? It's like once we stop growing, that's when like we stop breathing. You know what I mean? So I just don't think that we'll ever get to a point. No one's ever gotten to a point as a human being where they're like, I'm the best that I'll ever be at everything. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking just physically, because we're probably. I
don't know. I think some people are kind of like cool to just
I don't know, float.
Groundhog Day it.
Yeah. But I'm saying potentially, right? So it's
Yeah.
like when we look at what our potential is, like I don't think we ever stop growing. We can be 85 years old and, you know, we're declining physically, or we have declined physically, but there's a lot of wisdom that is still happening inside of our heads. But if we're just like, we like you're saying, like Groundhog's Day, we wake up, we sit on the couch, we turn the TV on, and we do that every single day. That person is now declining physically as well as mentally, emotionally, philosophically, everything, right? but the person that's like sitting up, reading, talking to people, teaching others what they've learned, they're like growing through all of those actions. So yeah, I think this shit will happen forever, you know, the growth.
And I think like the OPEX community is like, having lived here and this like every day coming here and then moving and not having that like be my constant environment and going back into like normal world. Like, this isn't normal. Like, most people don't seek to grow and be a better human every day. Like, this is an extraordinary way of living. Like, ordinary is to like do the Groundhog Day, you know, like survive. And I think we forget that. And I think that like why people want to be a part of what we do, or like even any kind of gym, is that it's an environment to be challenged and be better and progress. And progression looks different for everyone. I think the principles of fitness, I mean, they carry over into life in so many ways. You can just draw upon that. And if we want to keep growing as people, we want to keep enjoying life, we want to keep having fun, like we have to like wake up every day and be like, I don't know. And that's the hardest thing to do, because our brain just wants to know and predict and keep us alive. But that's not fun.
Yep.
Yeah, that OPEX, culture and that desire to live a larger life is so one of the things that attracted me to OPEX, to like wanting to move here and be a part of that. And it's like, so much of the fitness world places a huge priority on just growing the physical, and to be around people that really put massive priority on emotional growth, on growing relationships, and growing in so many other ways outside of the gym. Like, that is such an exciting thing to be a part of.
Oh yeah, it's contagious. Like, people want to be happy, you know? I mean, just look at the people you hang out with. If you're not happy, look at the people you hang out with. Change it.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go, right? It's like, you know, I can sit here in this room and be like, okay, Georgia makes me more of a perfectionist because she's such a perfectionist, right? So when I'm doing something, sometimes Georgia comes to mind where it's like, is that thing spelled wrong? Did you say that properly? Because Georgia,
she just fixed my spelling errors. Thank you. I hate spelling.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, if I wasn't around Georgia on a daily basis for the last couple years, it's like that voice probably wouldn't be in my head, right? You know, when I think about what Meg has given me, you know, as a person, and how you've helped me grow, it's like, you know, what's next? I always have that what's next moniker in my head where it's like, what's next? How do we continue to improve this thing? How do we continue? So I'm like thinking about that on a daily basis, and, you know, just preparing for, you know, our Monday meetings every week. I'm like, I go through that process for 30 minutes really quick before jumping on. So that's what it is. It's like, who is around you? So imagine if you had no one around you that was never challenging you, that wasn't better than you at something, right? And you were just like on your throne, and you're just like the man or the woman in your group. You wouldn't grow, right? You wouldn't grow because there's no one there to challenge you. There's no one's voice that's going to be in your head, right? That's how we grow as people, and as a culture, is we're around people that are better than us at something. Yeah. You know, if we were to sit here and say I'm the best at everything, we're fucking lying, right? Yes. So yeah, I think that's so important.
And it's so easy to do for, like, as you're talking, I'm thinking about coaches and gym owners, right? Like, it's so easy to just be the man or the woman, like leading your 150 people. And it's like, well, where are you going for that? Like, where are you going? You know, people get stagnant in running the gym, and they, you know, and then they leave. But it's, if you're going to be a leader of a community, you need to be around other leaders. It's like so important, you know, who are going to challenge you.
Yeah, that's what attracted me to OPT back then, right?
Yeah.
Like jumping on those early calls with you. It's like I was in my little bubble, and I felt like I went an amount of time where I was like, life is good, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm really well respected by, you know, coaches and owners and, you know, clients in this community. And I felt like I was like almost at the top of the totem pole. And then I got this feeling of like, I'm not growing anymore though, right? So I need to like join this other community that's going to make me even better, because I'm looking at people and I'm having conversations with people that are better than me, that are smarter than me. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I think that's important for coaches to do all the time, and that's why mentorship is so important, right? It's like, I got asked the question a couple weeks ago. It's like, what are the benefits of having a mentor? Like, what do I get out of that? Just globally, not for anything that we do. And it was like, you get out of it whatever you want to get out of it, right? Like you don't hire a mentor with like this itinerary of things that they're going to make you better at, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's a give and take. It's like there's so much benefit to just jump on a call with someone or to sit face to face with someone and have a conversation and bounce ideas off of them and allow them to challenge your ideas. It's like there's so much growth with that, right? So as a coach or business owner, to find someone like in your community or outside of your community that can challenge you is just so important.
So important.
Yeah.
And you know, and then like and then it's like then the next level of that is kind of like the people that you're like you becoming a mentor, you be coaching coaches or and letting them challenge you, because I mean, you guys know this, we all manage people here. It's like when you're accountable to another human being, it's like some of the best growth, because you're like, okay, I got to get like my shit together. Like I can't like tell you to do X, Y, and Z if I'm not doing it, you know? So it does, just even if you are, you know, the only person in your town, like people are still, I think you can still grow from the bottom up, but I think you're on it. Like you need that middle period where it's so easy as that technician to think like, oh, I've arrived. Like I know everything now. It's like, no, you don't. There's still more to go. Yeah,
definitely.
And I'm sure like as I'm talking, I'm going to look back at this on YouTube when I'm like 50 and be like, what an idiot. Like I didn't know anything back then, you know?
So nice to sit down and have this conversation. It's
Yeah.
long overdue. I mean, we chat on a daily basis,
Yeah, we do.
pretty much, but really good to get you here in front of the camera and let some of those coaches who chat with you on the phone see the face behind that call.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We'll probably do this fairly often, I would suspect, right? A couple times a year.
Certainly should.
Yeah,
Chit
yeah.
chat, chitty chat chat.
Yeah. That thing. Awesome. Thanks, Meg. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks.
Yeah.